Welcome back to the People's Mirror, ladies and gentlemen. It's been about 24 hours, moving into 48 hours when we have not been here, and now we're back. Now, it's always very important to let the dust settle in on these political stories when they happen, so that by the time we are making political comments on them, we are not only bringing the occurrence as it was, but also we are bringing to you the reactions that have occurred around the political scenario. And now today we just want to look at this particular event that took place yesterday in Kakamega, compare and contrast it with the event that took place in Siaya. But first, we want to bring back this event of Kakamega because this is the third event, the third rally that this cohort of the ODM party are holding. Now, there's a lot of things to pick from it, what has gone wrong from the previous two events into this third event, or what was improved in the Kakamega event. And so without wasting much time, let's just get right into it. Now, yesterday, Sifuna Edwin alongside Babu Owino and the team that identifies with them were in Kakamega. At the same time, the team that identifies with Gladys Wanga and Mbadi were in Siaya. Siaya is actually the county where Orengo is the governor. And so while Orengo was in Kakamega, this other part of the ODM party were in Siaya. We will make a little more political comments on that, and we'll even talk a little bit on how different this rally was from the Kitengela rally and also the Busia rally. But before we get deep into that particular analysis, let us listen to Edwin Sifuna's explosive speech that he made in Mulembe Stadium.
Hatutoroki leo, vima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee. Vima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee, hatutoroki leo. Hatutoroki leo. Hatutoroki leo. Vima hiyo kitu mkutano iendelee. Funika na jacket, mkutano lazima itaendelea. Tuendelee tusiendelee, hakuna siku. Leo hatutoroki. Wanasemanga zima hiyo kitu kama bangi, zima hiyo kitu kama nyongi ya jana. Vijana murudi. Leo hakuna mkutano inaisha. Haiwezekani. Piga ingine kama uko nao. Kumambao, piga ingine umbwa. Haya, tukae chini viongozi, tukae chini. Tukae chini tafadhali. Tukae chini viongozi.
Now, the first thing that happened, even before we get into the speech from that just section of what we have played, ladies and gentlemen, was this. The police waited. They waited for Rengo to give their speech. They waited for Osotsi to give his speech. And then when Sifuna took the microphone, that is when the first tear gas was lodged into that particular gathering. Now, the reason why we are stopping a little bit before we get into the speech is to put this to context. You see, the Busia rally was impromptu. By the time that Sifuna and Babu Owino were holding the Busia rally, a little bit on their capability of moving crowds post Raila Amolo Odinga had not been tested. And so when they stormed Busia and the people showed up in numbers, the political scene was shocked because this had not been seen post Raila's demise in all the political rallies that have been going on. Of course, the DCP has been holding their rally. We have seen Ruto trying to make some speeches within Nairobi, the president himself holding rallies. Now we have seen the other section of the ODM party made up of Kinawanga doing the Linda ground. Until the Linda Mwananchi stormed Busia, those numbers had not been seen in 2026. And so they were in the political radar. So come the Kitengela event, where a lot of people now showed up because the youths were actually anticipating to attend this particular event, number one. And number two, this was their rally within the urban space coming from Busia and back. And you might understand why the Kitengela numbers were insane as they were, because the talks that Sifuna and Babu Owino are, of course, urban city candidates, is also something that is being peddled around the Kenyan political scene. So they storm Kitengela, people show up in numbers. The political debates is that everyone showing up is from Wiper, sniper, DCP and all that. Those are not real numbers. They try to downplay these numbers, and what happens is that a police officer lodges tear gas, and now there's a fracas and an individual is killed in this particular process and other individuals left injured. Now the Kakamega rally is something that they give the date very early. They had set it for the 21st of this month, and every other party that is not supporting their end, of course, was ready to make the ground hostile. In Siaya, for example, there were talks that certain members of parliament were giving away 50 bob and such like money to make the ground hostile. In Kisumu, videos were out there of individuals actually daring Sifuna and his cohort to go via Kisumu. The ground seemed very hostile, not because they disliked Babu Owino or Orengo, but because they had been financed to reject this particular rally. In Kakamega itself, the border riders were given 800 bob worth of fuel and were being given 2-term reflectors to wear to make the ground very hostile. Actually, we have videos that surfaced way before Sifuna stormed that particular area of youths dressed in green clothing written 2-term, and they were saying how Kakamega is of course a President William Ruto's cohort that they are not welcoming Sifuna for. So at this particular time that they are holding this rally, first, the logistics are very hard, that they don't go through the airport. They use the airstrip in Siaya. Another thing, they are being tailed by these particular individuals who are trying to make their life hard in holding this rally. But as if that is not enough, the ground is being paid to become hostile. Now you'd understand why the tension in Kakamega rally yesterday existed because of these factors. But then listen first into this speech before we make political comments, after giving you just that background of how the Kakamega rally was different from the other two rallies that this team have held before.
Tafadhali kaeni chini viongozi. Hakuna mtu anaharibu hii mkutano. Haitawezekana leo. Kaeni chini tafadhali viongozi. Naomba tukae chini. Kakamega oye! Kakamega oye! Munaniona vizuri? Munaniona vizuri? Mimi ndio Sifuna. Kwa maombi yenu na kwa mapenzi ya Mwenyezi Mungu, nasimama hapa Kakamega nikiwa bado katibu mkuu wa chama cha ODM, senata wa kaunti ya Nairobi na naibu kiranja wa walio wachache kwenye bunge la Senate. Hapa ni nyumbani. Hapa ni nyumbani. Nataka viongozi ambao wamefika hapa, vijana, leo hatutupii polisi yoyote mawe. Wacha watupe tear gas, tunazima kama bangi ya jana na mkutano unaendelea. Haitawezekana leo. Tafadhali, haitawezekana leo. Msitupie polisi yoyote mawe. Wachaneni na yeye. Tafadhali naomba muachane na yeye. Wacha tuendelee na mkutano wetu, si ndio? Wangapi wanasema tuendelee? Wangapi wanasema tuendelee? Nataka niwaelezee kwa nini nasema hapa ni nyumbani. Hapa nyuma yangu ni shule ya Kakamega Township Primary School. Hapo ndio mahali mimi nimesomea. Hapo ndio nimefanya KCPE. Hapo mbele kwa upande wangu wa kushoto ndio nyumba ambayo nilikuwa naishi mimi. Pale mbele kulikuwa na baa moja ilikuwa inaitwa Popin Bar. Mnakumbuka Popin? Mnakumbuka Popin? Saa nyingine mzee ameingia hapo kunywa moja, mgeni anakuja nyumbani, maadaki kutuma uite mzee, lazima uingie polepole, unaweza kuta amekaribia waiter. Mnakumbuka Popin? Pale nyuma kabisa kulikuwa na mahali ya kuona sinema za Kihindi. Hapa kwa hii kiwanja ndio tulikuwa tunaletewa sinema ya bure. Walikuwa wanatuonyesha James Bond kwa hii kiwanja. The Spy Who Loved Me niliona kwa hii kiwanja. Niliona Rocky kwa hii kiwanja. Kwa hivyo niko nyumbani, siko nyumbani. Hapa ni wapi? Hapa ni wapi? Na nyinyi ni kina nani? Nyinyi ni nani? Nataka mseme wasikie nyinyi ni kina nani. Walisema hatuingii hapa. Wametutisha mpaka wanatufuata, wanatuandama kama wanyama. Nataka niseme mambo mawili. Kitengela waliua ndugu yetu mmoja miaka 28 anaitwa Vincent. Nataka DJ kwa heshima ya huyo kijana anaitwa Vincent, tutachapa stanza moja ya wimbo wa taifa. Naomba nipatiwe bendera yangu. naomba nipatie bendera yangu. DJ, nataka sisi sote kwa heshima ya huyo shujaa tupige stanza moja ya Kiswahili ya wimbo wa taifa wa Kenya. Twende kazi DJ. Twende kazi. Sana. Mimi nitasema kitu moja peke yake. Nataka nieleze ni kwa nini Sifuna huyu wenu anaandamwa. Mimi naandamwa kwa kukumbusha William Ruto kwamba uliweka mkataba na baba Raila Amolo Odinga ya kwamba utaheshimu haki za watu kukutana kwa amani jinsi ambavyo tumekutana hapa. Kwa nini unatutupia tear gas? Hiyo si ni kukuuka mkataba na baba? Tuliambia na William Ruto na baba walikubaliana ya kwamba weka hiyo maji chini bwana. Sisi ni wanaume, wapige wengine kama watapiga. Tuliambia William Ruto mambo ya kuua vijana wetu itakoma. Wameua hawajaua. Tuliambia huyu jamaa awache kuangamiza ugatuzi kule Nairobi. Wamechukua sasa ati Musalia ndio gavana wa Nairobi. Sio ni kukandamiza ugatuzi? Makosa yangu kubwa sana. Nimesema kwamba Ruto 2027 lazima aende nyumbani. Na nasema hivyo kwa sababu ni hii imenituma. Ruto, tafadhali wacheni.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that was the introductory speech of Sifuna. It's a speech that is now circulating in a lot of social media space, and we are aware that perhaps you have interacted with it in other platforms even prior to this episode. Now, quickly, we just want to take a look, an in-depth political analysis really, of why Sifuna spoke the way he spoke and certain mannerisms that came out of Sifuna while in this rally, before we bring the second speaker and we make the final analysis. Now, ladies and gentlemen, first, Sifuna is cutting it as very, very vibrant and very, very bold. Vibrant to the essence that he knew how difficult it was and it would be to have gotten into Kakamega, and in a previous post before he even made it to Kakamega had made it very, very categorical that no one was going to stop him from entering Kakamega, and if they tried or if they wanted to, then they should have tried. And very bold to the essence that this is the first rally where a tear gas has been thrown when he's just about to speak, and he has controlled the crowd. You know, normally when you see such rallies and a tear gas is thrown amidst people, the second thing that happens is dispersion. Now in Kakamega yesterday, we witnessed a crowd containing tear gas. The closest we have come to this is the Gen Z protest, where they were of course sniffing tear gas, others were kicking tear gas back and such like thing, and others kept asking police to bring more. And it's like the Gen Z spirit has now found itself within the Gen Zs in Kakamega. Yesterday when the tear gas was thrown, of course it was quelled before its effect could have been felt. But those are surface issues. Now into in-depth, the reason why Sifuna is speaking the way he's speaking mostly in Kakamega and giving this historical analysis really of how he has roots with Kakamega. He grew up in Kakamega, went to township in Kakamega and watched his first James Bond videos in Kakamega. After just hitting Busia with the rally before Kitengela, it's very important. It's at a time where the biggest voting bloc that is united right now is of course the Western voting bloc. The Mount Kenya voting bloc is being partitioned. There's a side that is going to Rigathi Gachagua's DCP, and there's a side that Uhuru Kenyatta is trying to consolidate behind, of course, Jubilee. There's a side that is with Kindiki Kithure, and that is the side that also has the likes of Waiguru. And so in this other camp of Western Kenya, there is still likelihood that they can vote as a bloc. So Sifuna is positioning himself not as an individual that comes from Bungoma, because his county is actually Bungoma, but an individual that can walk into Busia and have Busias listening to him, can walk into Kakamega and identify with the Kakamegans as one of their own, one that grew there, and of course with the support that is coming from the Trans Nzoia end. where Natembea has made it known times without a number that is supporting this particular spirit and wagehood of Edwin Sifuna. Sifuna is positioning himself as the true son of the people when it comes to the Western nation. And right now the talks has gone even beyond the replacement of Raila Amolo Odinga. We are witnessing a creation of a new king of his own making. And other people from that western part of Kenya has now likened him to previous Western Kenyan kings, including Shikuku, Wamalwa, and such like people. So he's positioning himself as one of their own, and that particular part of his speech had to be made and was very, very important in that particular context, to identify with the people as one of their own. Now, the identity aside, another thing that I find very, very interesting is also, other than the strategical positioning, is that the strategical positioning has gotten to even senior leaders of the Luya land, and they are bothered. Atuoli was quoted yesterday making statements saying that people behind you cannot necessarily give you presidency, saying that previously in the entire aspect of Kenya, presidency has been made from systems. Now, pause a bit. Let's put an analysis. Kenyatta might have gotten as a result of systems because we were chasing a white man away. Moi got in as a result of, without making much statements on it, Moi got in because Kenyatta died, and so he took advantage of that particular space when Kenyatta died for the 24 years. Kibaki got in because of the divisions that existed then, which would have given a Moi candidate more power, and so the people that were in that scene, including Raila's NDP, had to shelve their interest to oust a Moi and bring in Kibaki, and that is the Kibaki's first term. Kibaki's second time, he was defeated, and you saw how the country bled, to the extent that the United Nations had to bring in Kofi Annan to consolidate this particular friction between the rightfully elected president, who was Raila Amolo Odinga then, and of course Mwai Kibaki, who was serving his second term through that particular process. So up to 2007, you won't say that there was a single president other than the first president who was as a result of systems. So we are seeing the first democratic space in 2013 with the introduction of the new constitution that puts into power Uhuru Kenyatta as president, and so this transcends all the way to 2022 when Ruto takes it over. So the Kenyan presidency has not survived even 10 presidents for Atuoli to say with certainty how presidents are made. The Kenyan presidency has just survived a transition from independent and the death of the president and post-election violence. I think we have just had three elections within the space of a democratic space under the new constitution, and out of those three elections we've just had 2 presidents. So Kenya is woke and evolving, and whereas the likes of Atuoli might still be living in the illusion that of course presidency is given by systems, we are witnessing a Kenya where presidency is going to come from the people and is most likely going to come from the people for the rest of our democratic life. And so these are statements that are being made by parties that are afraid of the influence of that Sifuna is creating, and they're trying to downplay it, saying the numbers behind it does not necessarily reflect into presidency. Another thing that is important from Sifuna's speech alone, before we take a look at of course Babu's speech, is that Sifuna is the only person from this particular camp whose narrative is different. Now it's very, very important as a political aspirant to keep different narratives. The reason being, when you're speaking in Kakamega, or you're speaking in Busia, or you're speaking in Kitengela, the media is recording. Your support base goes beyond the Kitengela people present or the Busia people present into the media space that is created through the platforms that are selling your agenda to the rest of Kenyans. Now we listen to your speech in Busia, it's the same thing. We listen to your speech, of course, in Kitengela, it is the same narrative. We listen to your speech, of course, in Kakamega now after Kitengela, it's the same narrative. By the time we're listening to the same narrative on the 5th rally, you are diluted. And perhaps this is the reason why people are saying that Babu Owino right now could be coming up as a second-hand man to Sifuna's bid, because Sifuna has kept different narratives in all these rallies. And if you listen to Babu Owino's speech, which we will play shortly, he has kept the same narrative. So Sifuna is projecting himself as someone who is talking to the people and saying the fresh thing daily without curating a narrative that is of course being repeated across all rallies, and this keeps connecting him to more people in his rallies, even compared to the previous people he had before holding these rallies. Now for Kakamega, it was very, very tensed and it was interrupted. You could see how there was no coherency on the speech. There was the police here, left, right and center, people scared. They even had water next to the dais so that in case tear gas is sent there, this is supporters, not the politicians themselves. In case water is thrown to the dais, they are helping the their leaders and the politicians from, of course, the effect of that tear gas. So they were ready. They were very, very ready. But the involvement of the police and the prior planning that had gone into disrupting this particular rally made it very tensed. Let us know in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen, what you think of the Kakamega rally. Compare it to the Kitengela rally and also the Busia rally, and what you think of the Busia and, of course, Sifuna's and Babu's bid right now after the Kakamega rally went the way it did. Now, another individual that we want to put before the mirror, ladies and gentlemen, is Babu Owino. Babu Owino cut out as the second best option post Raila Amolo Odinga's demise. You remember when he walked into Kasarani and people were chanting Babu, baada ya baba ni Babu and such like things. Babu Owino is right now still very vibrant in the Kenyan political scene and is a hope for many, but seems like he's playing a second fiddle when it comes to this Sifuna Babu arrangement. Why? Because Sifuna keeps engaging with the crowd using a new narrative, but Babu is stuck to his old narrative of course, engaging with the crowd. Let us know also what you think of Babu Owino's political mileage right now and his dreams that Sifuna is dominating the scene. But before that, let us play the news bite and make more political statements.
DJ. Vijana tubim, wazee tialala, warembo wa mama mwe. We kijana, we ni mama unapiga mwe. Bas, vijana we, ona venye wameumiza huyu kijana wetu, msikimbie. Wacha peleke hospitali. Wacha peleke kwa gari hospitali haraka. Wacha usimpige, hata kama kuna shida, mpeleke tu hospitali. Ametuletea shida lakini mpeleke hospitali. Leta hapa juu. Haya, mpeleke hospitali, wacha mwache. Ni sawa, sasa imeisha. Vijana ria, vijana team, vijana tialala, vijana ria. Vijana, sasa nataka mnisikize. Tumesema ya kwamba hii mkutano haitaisha. Tiagas haiwezi maliza. Nyuki haiwezi maliza. Maji moto haiwezi maliza. Serikali haiwezi maliza. Lazima iendelee leo. Iendelee. Kwa hivyo vijana, nataka mnisikize kwa makini. Vijana ria, tunasema ni Babu kwa saa. Baada ya baba ni bila Babu ta. Sasa vijana, usikimbie hata chochote kinafanyika. Tutafanya mkutano leo watatuua hapa. Tuendelee vijana. Haya. Bas, sasa vijana, nataka mnipatie dakika chache niongee, kisha nikaribishe wajumbe wa wasalamie. Jambo la kwanza, hapa Kakamega, kijana ani maskini sana. Kijana ako na njaa. Kijana anaweza tamani kufa, lakini kijana hana hata pesa ya kununua kama ya kujinyonga nayo.
Now we are back to this story. The Babu speech, of course, is also one that you have identified with. Babu's niche is very interesting. He keeps his niche the young people, and that is why perhaps the name Babu Owino is very, very reasonable with the young people, because he understands really what a young person goes through at that particular level of transition. And having been a president, of course, of comrades at the university for quite some time, Babu have dealt with all the young people across all social classes, and he understands their pain individually. However, Babu's politics now, with this particular support base behind him, needs to embrace different narratives. He has support base across all ages, and if you're close to Babu and you're watching the People's Mirror, just tell Babu that in his subsequent speeches, he needs now to make speeches that resonate with the elder people, resonates with the younger people, and also resonates with the women. He needs to come up with a different opening when it comes to his rallies, because right now he's carrying behind him so much support that goes beyond the youth campaign that he used to do in campus. And that is why you can see a distinction on the way he's pulling crowd from how Sifuna's reasonability with the crowd exists. That is just a slight comment. While supporting the duo so strongly, and after watching the Kakamega stuff, how it went down. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comment section of what they need to do better now that they're taking a break during this Ramadan period before they storm Mombasa. Keep it here, the People's Mirror, because in our next episode we are bringing for you what also happened on the other side, where 2 cabinet secretaries and the national chairperson was speaking to an open empty field. This is the People's Mirror. Keep it here until the next episode.